Damn. Hello, dear viewers. How are you doing? Today we have a special event, X2 for Void Shards. But besides X2, we also have X10 for this beautiful champion, Fatalist. His abilities are simply wonderful, so my goal today is to get him 100%. I hope he drops for me out of 100 shards. Well, who knows, maybe he won't drop, we'll see. Today we will also open 10 at once. If we come across epics and legendaries, we will look at them. I usually don't share rare champions and save them for later, but if you see an awesome rare champion, write a comment saying, "You got a cool rare champion." Just like in the previous video, I ask you to write in the comments how many legendaries you think will drop for me today. I think about 3. Well, someone will say you dream too much, but it seems to me that I will definitely get 3. But I also want to remind you that I have 100 sacred shards that we will start working on. But what do you have to do to make sure you do not miss any of the shards that will be released on this channel? That's right! Subscribe to the channel, like it, and click the bell to receive notifications about the release of our new videos. By the way, in the last episode we opened ancient shards. Here's a hint in the video. I opened 100 ancient shards, and there were 2 X2 events for legendaries and X10 for the Necmo Thar drop. Unfortunately, I didn't get the Necmo Thar, but I did get several legendaries. If you're interested in the previous videos, open my channel and follow the hint to watch. Well, what do you think will come up, huh? I'm rubbing my hands and hope that I'll get a good champion from the Monster Hunter World collaboration today. Well, who knows? Maybe I won't get it today. First 10, here we go! There is an epic. Let's go through the epics quickly. The first epic is Ogren Scrag. Let's look at his first ability. He attacks the enemy once and has a chance to inflict weakness, and that chance is increased if the enemy has health burn. The second ability attacks the enemy twice and heals the champion for 15% of their maximum health on each critical hit. He also gives himself an attack buff if the target has health burn. The third ability attacks all enemies and has a high chance of inflicting health burn. He also fills his turn meter if the hit was critical. The fourth upgradable ability increases the champion's damage and critical damage by 5% each time health burn is applied, stacking up to plus 25%. A decent burn, but there are better ones. The second epic I saw in the previous video isn't bad. He'll do for the arena and even some PvE modes, but overall he's a champion you can skip. Let's move on. Here is School Crown. This is a good champion for both PvP and PvE. The first ability attacks enemies and has an extra turn when the enemy has less than 50% health. The second ability attacks all enemies and applies weakness, which is also good. The third ability activates when he has less than 20% health. It applies a buff of invincibility to himself. A good ability. And the fourth passive? It resurrects that champion at 30% health, but only if there is a second champion of the same faction in the group. There's also a good aura that increases speed in the arena by 23%. We spent a lot of money opening the first 10. Now let's open the next 10. By the way, have you liked it yet? Have you subscribed? Then let's go! So, only 500 points. It seems to me that everything here is only rares. Well, maybe the game is trolling me today. I don't know. Well, I'm not laughing anymore. I opened 20 pieces. 20 pieces. Well, if we count $1 for each shard, then I've already spent $20. 20 Void Shards! That's cool! But I have an exclusive offer for you, viewer. If you are a beginner who has never played in a raid and wants a cool bonus from the start, or if you are an experienced player with an unlucky account without epics, then open the link in the description. If you join Raid through this link, it gives you the Champion Terrell and the Champion Aina at level 25. You will also receive many useful resources to level up these epics. Don't miss out on this exclusive and cool set that will help you in your progression, and I will continue to open more shards. Okay, let's cross our fingers and go for another 10 shards. Come on, Legendary, come on! 800 again. I can tell from the points of this tournament if there will be anything. Damn, guys. Well, All in all, this champion is not bad for her massive attacks. Now, you can see for yourself, I wouldn't say she's paid off the 10 we just opened. Let's take a look at their abilities. The first ability attacks one enemy, and if it crits, 50% of the damage is distributed to all enemies. In other words, it's a crowd ability. The second ability hits all enemies 3 times, and if it crits, each hit restores 2% of that champion's health. And the third ability attacks one enemy and reduces that enemy's haste scale by 100%. The ability ignores shields and damage blocks. Awesome. A good champion is useful in a lot of places, even in PvP, but especially in PvE to reset the boss's turn scale. Very cool champion I got. Let's open 10 more shards, but this time it has to be a legendary one. Let's do it. We already have Skrank. Ouroboros, well, a champion fusion too. Okay. We already have a health burner. You have already seen it. Ouroboros is the champion we give to beginners as a promo code. Let's take a look at her abilities. Her first attack hits the enemy and has a chance to apply a defense debuff, but this attack will be AoE if the target has 4 debuffs. Her second ability hits an enemy twice and has a high chance of applying debuffs from herself to the target she is attacking. The first hit has a high chance of stealing all buffs from the target if she attacks under Ideal Veil or Veil. The third ability applies a crit buff to that champion, then attacks once and applies Perfect Veil to itself, and the fourth ability applies Resurrection to itself when it receives Veil or Perfect Veil. There is also a passive ability that increases the damage of allies in dungeons by 33%. It is a good champion, and I recommend it to beginners, as it is a great damage dealer. Well, let's take a look at Broadmaw. He's a hero of the fusion, but he's not bad either. He is a support class. The first ability attacks the enemy and also has a chance to freeze. The second ability applies a critical chance buff to all allies for 2 turns, which is also cool. The third ability resurrects 2 random allies with 25% health and also applies a damage block. There is also a small aura that increases the defense of allies in the faction crypt. A decent champion. If you don't have a reviver with a speed buff, you can also use this. This 10 is more or less decent. It's good, but, well, I've already spent a lot of money. Maybe give me a legendary one? Let's go. Next 10. Are you serious? Wagrin is not very good. Among the blue champions, Cold Heart is the best because she attacks based on percentage of health. So if anyone can get her on X2, congratulations. And I have 3 epics, so let's take a quick look at them. Wagrin, in general, I wouldn't say he's a good champion. He's more for merging. But let's take a look at his abilities. The first one hits an enemy twice, and each hit has a chance to steal a random buff. A2 hits one enemy 3 times and also applies True Fear to all enemies for 1 turn. It also applies an invincibility buff to this champion if he kills anyone with his attack. The third ability is to trade health with the enemy and then take another turn. And the fourth passive, it deals more damage to enemies with less health than this champion. A very situational champion. And like I said, it is more for fusion. Godseeker Aniri is an excellent support champion, and it would be cool if someone got him. His first ability attacks a single enemy and heals the ally with the lowest health by 5% of their maximum health. His second ability attacks all enemies and heals all allies by 15% of their maximum health. Then he reduces the number of debuffs on enemies for 1 turn and increases the number of buffs on allies for 1 turn. The third ability resurrects an ally with 50% health and 50% movement. It also removes all cooldowns on the target. Upgradable passive skill increases the amount of healing done to allies by 10% and applies resurrection to the ally after death if they take a fatal hit. She looks just awesome. If you already have her, please write in the comments. It's very interesting to know who else has her. The first ability attacks an enemy and has a small chance to take an extra turn. The second ability gives that champion a critical chance buff for 2 turns, then attacks an enemy. The third ability attacks one enemy while ignoring shield and damage block buffs. And there is also a small aura that increases the attack of all allies in the arena by 21%. I've never had so many shitty openings in a row. So I opened the first half of the Void Shards, and there is still another half left. I am very demoralized by these openings. Seriously, imagine I spent 50 shards, $50 to get some epics. What? So I ask you to subscribe, like, and leave a nice comment to support all these openings and give me a little motivation, because honestly, this is really demoralizing me. And I just wanted to remind you that there will be 100 Void Shards in the next video. Well, let's open 50 more shards. But there should be a legendary by now. I've opened so many shards that a legendary just has to drop. It just can't not. Plarium, if you can hear me through the microphone. Plarium, please give me a legendary. Legendary. Okay, that's it. Let's go. Next set of shards. I'm going crazy. Let's break in. 2 epics? What else can I say? Just 2 damn epics? But let's take a look at the M's. They're actually not bad. The first one is Epic, Elf. Let's take a look at their abilities. A1 attacks all enemies. A2 applies an increased attack buff to all allies for 2 turns and also removes all debuffs from allies. A3 gives one target a resurrection after death for 3 turns. Now, there is also a good passive skill that gives allies a 19% speed buff in all battles. Eurogrim also happens to be a support champion. His A1 attacks an enemy twice. When upgraded, applies poison. His A2 removes all debuffs from all allies, then heals them for 40% of their maximum health. His third ability applies a poison debuff to all enemies for 2 turns, and it applies increased regeneration to allies. Just amazing. This champion is both a damage dealer and a healer, and it's just amazing because you get a 2-in-1 champion. There's also a cool aura that increases ally speed by 20% in all combat. Well, you know, everything was kinda bad, but somehow Eurogrim cheered me up. He's really cool, and despite the fact that I have some mythics and legends there, to get Eurogrim, well, that's awesome. Alright, so let's go for the next 10. Haha, damn. I'm looking at the tournament points. I see there's no legendary. Okay, let's open another 10. Well, 1,400. That's already 3 epics, I think. Wow, Madame Ceres. Listen, not bad. I got some good champions. Let's take a look at each epic. Exemplar is our high elf. A1 attacks one enemy twice. When the ability is upgraded, it can take another turn if there was a critical hit. Also, when the ability is upgraded, it deals increased damage to the opponent and increases their cooldown. A1 is quite extensive. A2 attacks the enemy 3 times. Each hit has a high chance of inflicting weakness for 2 turns. A3 attacks the enemy once and has a high chance of inflicting freeze. There is also a serious aura that increases the critical chance in the arena by 27%. Now for the most delicious part. Yes, I didn't get the legendary. Yes, there was blah blah blah. I already spent 70 shards, but Madame Ceres, just look at this model. It's an awesome model. A1 attacks one enemy and has a high chance to inflict fear for 1 turn. This chance increases if the target has debuffs. A2 attacks all enemies, has a high chance of stealing a random buff from each target, applies a debuff block to allies for 2 turns if buffs were stolen. It also applies true fear to targets whose buff has been stolen. A3 removes all buffs from all enemies and applies attack and defense debuffs to them for 2 turns. She also has an amazing passive that applies a shield to herself, and if the enemy attacks her while under the shield buff, they will receive fear. She is simply a must-have champion for the arena. It is the best control champion you can get for the arena. A great champion, 10 out of 10. It definitely bought all the shards. And there is also a champion of the new faction. Such a beautiful champion with horns, a shield, runes everywhere. Cool. Let's take a look at her abilities. I can already see that this is a support champion, attacking an enemy and restoring maximum health to herself or an ally with the highest destroyed maximum health. A2 attacks an enemy, gives all allies an accuracy boost before the attack, and has a high chance of inflicting sleep for 1 turn. A3 applies a debuff block to all allies for 2 turns, and then heals them for 30% of their maximum health. It also has a good passive ability that can give it an extra turn when allies use abilities. A cool champion that moves a lot, resets cooldowns, and debuffs the enemy. Not bad. Well, let's open 50 more shards. But there should be a legendary by now. I've opened so many shards that a legendary just has to drop. It just can't not. Legendary! Arbiter. This top 10 is very controversial. Do you know why? Because we have both a legendary and a very cool champion that will help with the unkillable group on the clan boss. Okay, let's take a look at the epics one by one. The first is a demoness. A1 attacks the enemy and increases her own health if it has been reduced. The second attack hits all enemies and has a high chance to apply a buff block for 2 turns. And if the ability is upgraded, this chance simply increases. And A3 hits all enemies and has a high chance to apply provocation for 2 turns. It applies the invincibility buff to that champion for 2 turns and also applies an active skill block to herself for 5 turns. The next good champion is Maneater Oghren. Let's take a look at his abilities. A1 attacks the enemy and has a high chance of applying an attack debuff to all enemies if the hit is critical. A2 hits the enemy and steals their turn meter completely, and when the ability is upgraded, he not only removes it, but also fills his own turn meter depending on how much he removed. And his third ability applies immunity and debuff block buffs to all allies for 2 turns. Why is this skill ultimate? Because on the clan boss, you will almost always be under this ability, especially if you have 2 such wonderful epics in your party. It also has a cool aura that increases your allies' health by 33% in dungeons. Finally, we have the legendary Arbiter. This legend can be obtained by completing missions, but also by obtaining shards. A1 attacks an enemy twice, and each hit has a chance to inflict weakness for 2 turns. The second skill attacks all enemies once and has a high chance of reducing the duration of buffs on enemies by 1 turn. A3 applies an attack buff to all allies for 2 turns, then fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%. And she heals all allies for 25% of her maximum health if she is below 50% health. Oh, and the ultimate A3, which she takes to the arena and dungeon, resurrects all allies and fills up their turn meter. Another cool addition is a good aura, which increases the speed of all allies in the arena by 30%. The first legendary is here, but we only have 10 shards left, and I hope that the desired fatalist will fall now. But just wanted a legendary, damn. This one, I wanted fatalist. It just doesn't go into my hands. Well, all the viewers are gathered and focused. The last 10 void shards for today. Here we go! Oh, damn. What will you say, audience? What are you going to say? This is just the best stupid thing I've ever done. It's just crazy. Okay, guys, I killed 100 void shards. Killed. There's no other way to say it. I got a legendary, a lot of epics, I got a ton of rares. Let's take a look at my inventory. Here, I already have a leveled up Arbiter, and now I have a second Arbiter. A duplicate of champions appeared. I already have 2 duplicate champions. Of course, I also have Madame Ceres from the shard. Well, here is another cool Ogren, and this one is a good champion. The rest is all rare. By the way, we got 2 cold hearts today. If we consider each void shard as $1, then I just spent $100 on this video. Just $100 damn dollars. And as is tradition, we will start with some sacred shards because I will open them in the next video. So I will wait for some X2 and then open them to show what I have. So the first sacred shard, here we go. Legendary. Ho ho ho, not bad. A1 attacks one enemy twice and automatically activates health burn if the target has this debuff. Cool. A2 attacks all enemies and has a high chance of applying health burn to all enemies for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted. Wow, what a cool champion. I haven't seen him anywhere. A3 balances the health of all allies and then attacks an enemy. The health of the allies is equal to the health of the hero with the highest health on the team. If the current health of the target is equal to or less than the current health of the hero, 30% of the target's defense is ignored. And if the target's current health level is higher than the hero's, the cooldown of the Ritual Bonfire skill is reduced by 1 turn. There is also a passive ability that reflects 30% of the damage back to the enemy when this hero is hit if the enemy has 50% health or more. And if this hero has less than 50% health, it deals 30% more damage. He has excellent stats almost everywhere, and there is no weak modes. Great! I used to get upset early, didn't I, viewers? From the first sacred shard and already a legend, the chance for it is 6%, and not just 1. Still, it made me very happy. Let's open another shard. Aha! Well, just card the Sagiled. A1 attacks the enemy and has a high chance of applying an attack debuff, a good ability. The second ability attacks all enemies and has a high chance to apply provocation for 1 turn. A3 applies a defense buff and an attack buff to all allies for 2 turns. There is also an upgradable passive ability that fills the turn meter of all allies when they are attacked with a provocation debuff or an attack buff. And there is an aura that increases the defense of all allies in the faction crypt by 27%. And of course, the stats are worth mentioning. The game guarantees us a 16% drop rate for epics and a 1% chance for a legendary. We got 1 legendary from void shards, but I got 18 epics out of 100 shards, which is 2% more than the expected chance. Not bad, but in the previous opening my chances were much higher. Well, dear viewers, we have opened 100 Void Shards with you, and those of you who commented that I would get 2 legendaries for the entire video, you are awesome. You guessed it. Congratulations. I just want to remind you that if you want to see more shard opening videos and see these shards in action when the sacred shards go up to X2 and I get twice as many legendaries, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like this video, and also click the bell button to get all the notifications when the new videos are released. That way you won't miss any shard opening videos. Thank you so much for watching the video. All of you who watched it to the end, you are just awesome. I kiss and hug you. I also recommend you to check out the content that is available on our channel and see you in the new video where I will open sacred shards.